going to be showing you how to do some compositing and specifically this double exposure effect with video in Adobe After Effects. So this is kind of my example that I created earlier, but I'm going to go ahead and just create a new composition. I'm going to go over to my project folder, create a new comp. We'll just call this one demo video. And so I have already downloaded some clips. So I have this clip. I have a couple others with just some background things. These were downloaded off of Pexels, so these are all just free downloaded images or downloaded videos, and just some fun stuff to kind of play around with. So our goal here is just to start kind of putting these together with the goal of how can we blend them, how can we do some cooler things than maybe possibly what we were able to do in Premiere. So I'm going to start with the girl image with the green screen. Right now it's overly scaled, so I'm going to go down. I'm going to hit S for scale, and I'm just going to shrink this up so it fits into my window. I think you can do this with other clips that are not green screen. I know the green screen works really well. There might be some workarounds if you don't have a green screen video. But for this particular example, I'm going to use green screen clip, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to apply a key light effect. So I'm going up to my effects, and I'm looking for key light 1.2, which is just our effect to key out the background. So this is going to pop up over here in your effect controls, and I'm going to go to my eyedropper, and I'm just going to click in kind of like a general green space. So this has kind of been my go-to area on this particular clip. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my project folder, and I'm going to grab some kind of background visual. So I'm going to drop my ocean down below. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shrink this up real fast, and I want to fill the image of the girl with the ocean image. So how I'm going to do this, if you notice down in the bottom left in After Effects, you may or may not have all of this showing. So in the bottom left, there's these two buttons, and sometimes that second one isn't lit up. So you want to turn that one on. This gives us the ability to do track matte as well as the modes for the blending mode. So really easily, we could just go right here with the girl image, and I could change my mode and mess around with some of that. And obviously, I am getting some double exposure types of effects, but I want to do something a little bit better than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my track matte, and I'm going to say for the ocean, I want that ocean to be alpha matted to the girl's image. So what that's going to do is it's going to take that ocean image and it's going to fill it in only into her space. Now I could do an alpha inverted, and what that's going to do is flip the opposite. So it's going to be the video will be in the background, and then her image will be black. So you have a couple options there, things to play around with. I'm going to leave it like this. And what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to go ahead and duplicate the image of the girl. I'm going to turn that eyeball on. So that was just Command D to duplicate. And I'm going to turn that eyeball on. So I have her up top. And then I'm going to duplicate her one more time. And that one I'm going to leave there, but I'm going to turn off the eyeball. And on this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to Tint. And I'm going to throw a tint onto this one. And basically just turn it black and white. Okay. The other thing I'm going to do is go into curves, and we're going to try to just kind of push the contrast a little bit more on this with the goal of trying to make essentially a map, black and white map in which the video can kind of play off of. So I'm going to go something like this. We'll see what happens here. That looks pretty good. Again, I'm just using curves. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to pre-comp this girl. So I'm going to go Command Shift C, and I'm just going to call this map. And I'm going to move this to the bottom. And I'm going to turn, I think I'm going to turn the eyeball off, but we're going to go now, and we're going to put a displacement map. So we're going to type in displacement map under distort, and we're going to take that and put it on the ocean. And we're going to say, okay, up here, what do you want to displace to? We're going to say to the map. All right, so now I'm going to go in and just start messing with some of these settings, and you're going to see that what's going on is it kind of maps to like the three-dimensional look of that girl. So you can kind of play around with this. You can also have this change over time. So if I wanted to turn on my keyframes for those things, I can say, all right, start there, but then by the time you get to here, and this kind of allows that to kind of wrap around this girl. Looks pretty cool. So this would take a couple minutes to render, so we're not gonna get a real good long preview of it, but that's kind of what we're working with. Okay, so next thing, we want to create a different background color. So what I'm going to do is go down here, go New, Solid, and I'm going to use my color eyedropper to pick some kind of general color that's being used in that background. That looks good. And hit OK. All right, I'm just going to move that down below everything. And so now we have this girl. And you know, you can see her figure. Maybe it's a little bit too light. So if I wanted to edit that, I could click on that and go up to layer and then go to solid settings. And then I could go in and manually make that a little bit darker if I really wanted to. You could push it even further. I actually don't think it looks that bad now that I'm thinking about it. So I'm going to leave it like that and hit OK. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm also going to take that ocean. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to bring that ocean image down. And I'm going to, let's see what's on this one. So I'll go to project, go to effect controls. So on that one, I'm actually going to take off my displacement map. And let's see. I'm also going to turn off the track matte on that ocean. So now it's in the background. And now what I'm going to do is kind of play around with my mode settings on that ocean background. So say, all right, what does vivid light look like? You know, what does screen look like? That looks pretty good. It's nice and subtle. I might also take hit S for scale and just bump that up a little bit more. You can see kind of how that's affecting the piece. That looks good. Let's see. I may even now, you know what, I'm going to go into that ocean too, and maybe it's going to go into T for opacity. I'm going to turn that down a little bit so it's not quite as intense. All right. And then I'm going to get a little bit kind of fancy here, and let's put a little bit of, you know, I'm going to pre-comp these two together. So Command-Shift-C, and we'll call this background BG. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to put a little vignette onto this. So I'm typing in vignette, CC vignette onto that background, and that's going to just give it a little bit of a darkness to it. And I might do this to the whole thing too, so you can play around with that, make that a little bit darker. Now it's looking pretty cool. You know, I like visually kind of what's going on there, but I want to be able to see a little bit of this girl and, you know, not having it just totally be, you know, ocean imagery. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to that ocean image and I'm going to click on it. I'm going to go get my pen tool and we're going to create a mask. And so what I'm going to say is, all right, where do I want to see that girl's image? I'm going to say here. Now I could do this a different way. What I did was I picked kind of like the ocean to do this on. I could also do this on the girl's image. We'll see how this pans out. And I would just then take that girl image that I had originally and put it underneath so that I only have a portion of it. And then on that ocean mask right here, what I'm going to do is go in and just kind of play around with the feathering so it kind of softly blends in a little bit. There we go. That looks pretty good. So nice and subtle. Another thing I might do is go in now and I'm going to go into tint. I'm going to throw a tint onto that girl's image. And it's maybe a little bit too intense. So let's see, amount to tint. I'm going to tone that down a little bit. So I do want it to be tinted, but maybe not as much. All right, that looks pretty cool. All right, so I'm going to hit U to kind of close down all these layers. And so it's looking pretty cool. Like I'm liking where it's at. You know, I could always bring in more stuff and layer more stuff up. I can also, if I really wanted to, I could keyframe that mask to move along. So I'm going to go here, and now I could do more masks onto this girl's image. What I'm going to do is actually take that original girl. I'm going to duplicate it, and I'll put that one up on top. And then I'm going to create just a series of masks on there. So say I wanted to show some of her hair in this image. I could go in and draw onto her layer. Boom. And I'm going to go into that top layer. This might have been a better way just to even do this in terms of just compositing, you know, do this layer on top a little bit more. So, but again, these are all copies of the same image, so it really, you know, it's working one way or another. I'm gonna turn that down. Let's see what happens if I go in to make me. I'm just clicking on my mask here, and maybe I want to pull out another area. Let's see if this allows this to work. All right, there we go. Yeah, so just by clicking on that mask, I added another mask, and then the second one I'm just going to play around with again, you know, see what the feathering would do. I could always go in and move these and edit this and, you know, change the positioning. I could also turn on my keyframes for this. So the mask path, if I wanted to, I could have this change over time and say, okay, here that one's going to look like this, but then by the time it's here, that would be maybe off screen or... So I could change that over time. And same thing with the, you know, the face itself. So looking pretty cool, and you can kind of see that my keyframing coming in and out there, and just, you know, the different things you can do with After Effects, and there's plenty more to kind of play around with. You know, generally for me, it's kind of unify the piece at the end here. What I'll do is I'll pre-comp everything, Command-Shift-C, and then I'll just call this final. And then what I'm going to do is put a nice little vignette over top to kind of tie it all together. You could even color grade the whole thing as one group, but I think this kind of just makes the piece look a little bit nicer. And then the last thing, light rays. If you really want to get crazy, you could put some light rays onto this clip as well. And so this one I can move around, I can place this somewhere in the image. I can go ahead up there and mess around with my intensity. I could play around with, you know, radius and just kind of, you know, have some fun. This could be put on like a background layer and then just, you know, altered based on how intense you want this thing to be. So I think that looks pretty cool. And again, we can keyframe all those things too. So we could start this maybe, all right, the center's going to start there, and so kind of a cool final result, which would need rendered, but you know, came together pretty well here. So